Now, EU leaders have praised the passage of a new €50 billion support package for Ukraine. European Council President Charles Michel said the four-year deal would ensure long-term predictable funding for Ukraine after Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban finally dropped weeks of opposition to the deal. Ukraine has faced increasing uncertainty over aid funding because of political infighting in the EU and the US. Well, with me here in the studio is Olha Stefanishyna. She is Deputy Prime Minister for the European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine. As such, she's responsible for Ukraine's integration into both the EU and NATO. Welcome to DW.
Good morning.
Let's begin with that breakthrough yesterday in Brussels. EU leaders finally approved that €50 billion package for Ukraine. What does that mean for your country?
Well, that means a lot. And first and foremost, it's a message to all Ukrainian people, Ukrainian medical workers, social workers, teachers, that they will have their necessary payments and to Ukrainian society, which has the signal that it will survive throughout the 4 years. Because we're not only surviving through the war and fighting on the front line, there is 30 plus million people which have to survive through war on a daily basis. And this decision is vital. This
$50 billion from Europe for 4 years from the European Union, is that really going to be enough to cover all the needs, the financial needs for the country? Because it must be extremely difficult keeping your war economy going while you're fighting a war against Russia.
Situation is different from 2002 and now. The amount of necessary resources to cut the budget shortages is much smaller because we have tightened our conditions. All the revenues from national budgets are targeted to fight the war and defend ourselves. So these resources are not enough. Of course, we're waiting for the decision at the US administration, but it shows the commitment of Europe to stand with Ukraine. And I think it's more than the resources, but financially we will be able to survive with these resources as well.
Hungary, an EU member state, long opposed this aid package for Ukraine and was able to successfully block it for weeks and weeks in Brussels. Do you sense that support for Ukraine within the European Union is diminishing?
I don't think so. I don't think so. On the opposite, Ukraine has generally opened the window for the transformation of European Union, and every member state is looking for its place in it. I just saw Prime Minister Orban coming to European Council in his tie of peace. It's green. Usually it's pink or red. So which means that the transformation started. And I think, unfortunately, Ukraine has to fight the war. But at the end of the day, it will result in a stronger union. United together.
So color symbolism important there. Talk to us about the trajectory of the war and how it's influencing Ukraine's prospects of joining the EU and NATO. Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russia has stalled by most accounts. Russian forces are dug in on Ukrainian territory. Vladimir Putin shows no sign of backing down. Is EU or NATO membership realistic under these circumstances?
Well, let's not forget that Ukraine has secured the Black Sea corridor, which is one of the major military operations which will be part of the history. And you cannot say that the front is stuck. And we're also a war in which Ukraine tests the new technologies, which means that the front is not the way you have seen it over the Second World War. But on EU, it's very clear. So all the decisions and commitment has been made. Ukraine is in a process, and Ukraine's administration is perfectly capable on delivering EU. On that. On NATO, the decision has been taken in Vilnius that Ukraine will become a member of NATO, and since then, all the decisions has been implemented. So I think that basically now the issue of the next step, whether it's invitation or I will have discussions in the Chancellery today, what could that be? It's not that political. it's a normal process, and it's perfectly the legal solution which stumbled the commitment to military financial support to Ukraine and persistence to the end of this war and restoration of peace. So I think the angle of a discussion is different now, because Ukraine's membership to NATO is vital for the allies. It's critical to end the war in Ukraine and not allow it to cross the NATO border, and basically to secure the borders of the European Union.
So you'd say that Ukraine's EU and NATO membership aspirations are on track?
Perfectly.
Let's talk about, I'd like to get your thoughts on Ukraine's relations with the U.S. U.S. clearly an important backer of Ukraine in this war against Russia. Aid for Ukraine is being blocked right now in the U.S. Congress by Republicans, and there's a good chance that Donald Trump will return to the White House as president after the election later this year. How concerning is that prospect for you?
Well, of course, Ukraine is anxious about any potential tensions which delay the decisions on financial or military support, because every decision directly affects Ukrainian people. Some of the Congress people told me that you can't play poker, so don't distract us from that. That's okay. This is the politics. We have to survive at any condition, and we will survive at any condition. But we're still see that the situation probably would have to get to the total absurd to see that the decision is obvious and it's on the surface. So I'm really happy that NATO SecGen, Jens Stoltenberg, has been in DC, and I guess Chancellor Scholz is planning his visit as well. I think this is a very important show of solidarity, that Europe stands strong for its security, but U.S. role is still vital at this point.
Olha Stefanishyna, Deputy Prime Minister for the European and Euro-Atlantic integration of Ukraine, thank you very much for talking with us here today.
Thank you.